Hello and welcome to this final first look exploring session, looking at the Fairy Pastoral, or the Fairy Chase, or the Forest of Elves, or Fairy Hunt in Elvidor, or many other names I'm sure as well, by William Percy, written around 1603, revised much later. We think this text is the later version of the text, which has all sorts of various changes and emendations, which I suppose means we'll have to go back to the A text at some point in the future. The sound of excitement and happy joy from the room. We have been struggling with the way William Percy writes, but there are some interesting details. There are some fun bits. There's occasional really nice lines. The songs are usually quite fun, and there's stuff to be drawn out of this, even if it is a little hard work at times. And we're going to struggle on to the end from Act 4, Scene 5 onwards, and we're going to see where it goes. So, reading today, we don't quite have enough people, so there might be some people talking to themselves at times. Reading Learchus, Hylas, and Hypsiphyle is...
Hello, I'm Francis Cox. I'm an actor and voice artist living in Amsterdam.
Reading Camilla, Picus, and Christophel is...
Aliki, Chapple, currently in Athens.
Reading Fancia, and Sapho is...
Alan, in Sapho.
Reading Hippolon, Atys, and Orion is...
Lois in London.
And reading Florida, David, and the chorus is...
Elizabeth in sunny Essex.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I will be reading stage directions. I will also read Salomon later on as well. And I'll leap into the fray when the doubling falls apart, if necessary. And so, without further ado, we're going to go into Act 4, Scene 5. We are effectively in a series of scenes here where the chaps... are disguising themselves to, or some of the chaps are to have disguised themselves to revenge themselves on the ladies who have spurned them and made fun of them earlier. We've had two so far, disguisings and capturings in various capture-y places, and as we go into Act 4, Scene 5, we're going to have another similar kind of scene, probably. Enter Fancia. She held a brief in her hand. Hippolon, in a bachelor habit and cornered cap, in the likeness, so disguised as a character from another element of the play, in the likeness of Sir David.
Do you assure me, Master Schoolmaster, this charm thrice repeated over will bring, by virtue of his operous force, the hunter Silvius in command of my will?
Madam, I say not so, unless you do observe each circumstance as I shall prescribe unto you, as things requisite and fitting in the case.
Master, your rule.
First, you must repeat the spell 3 times, then whistle once between, and then repeat as oft. Then whistle long, and then repeat, so incessantly till the sun be down. Eftsoons, by a scroll let into your lap of wondrous force and operation, madam, you shall be instruct what to do.
All this I can and will perform, Sir David.
I had forgot. This must be done, looking steadily against the sun. For if never so little you clean the eye, the charm will break, and you in same order you were before.
Prithee, David, give it its time once more.
Bat, bear away, if thou hear'st this way, come by mine ear away, and for thy hear away, take a piece of toasted cheese, wee!
He whistles. The wee W-H-E-U is presumably a scriptural indication of whistling.
Now I shall carry it, sure.
Good madam, be careful in the circumstance, for then I warrant you the success.
Fear not, thou.
So, leaving your ladyship to the deed, I wish your honour suddenly to speed.
Master, if any way I may thee steed, I'll be pressed to further thee in thy need.
Why, I do thank your good honour for it.
Here she lays herself on the bank, pillow to her head.
Mighty Jupiter, if it be thy will, grace my attempt and grant me Silvius' will. Here Silvius is wise, Silvius is trim, Silvius a lord, Silvius a king, Silvius is rich, Silvius is strong, Silvius is straight, Silvius is long, Silvius can run, Silvius can ring, Silvius can leap, Silvius can fling, Silvius to shoot, Silvius to swim, Silvius will dance, Silvius will sing, Silvius in human shape but one, yet all of these is Silvius alone. Then Fancia composed thee on the sorrel, and call thou loud on Silvius thy spell.
Here she executeth the spell that was enjoined her, bat, bat, bear away, etc.
The sun's down, and lo, the scroll within my lap.
She no sooner executed the whole precept many times as might suffice, decide amongst yourselves, but a scroll fell into her lap from above, which was this.
Silvius remaineth in that brick, you see, and in the cot there's a banquet to entertain him. Quickly hie, and look for the keys behind that oak.
And stopping reading and speaking normal dialogue.
Excellent. I will even presently take the keys and see. Villain!
And I'm not quite sure what the stage direction we've got written here is about. No kiss here, neither David his bum. I'm assuming that some scriptural error has occurred here in the transmission, because I don't think that has anything to do with anything. It's either misplaced or confused. We will just move straight on into the ongoing scene, Act 4, Scene 6. Enter Florida to Fancia.
Call'st me villain?
No, but I prithee, who hath sublimated thee into a cherubim so?
Thou? Who hath transformed thee into an owlet woman?
With looking on the sun I am.
Is it an eclipse?
In mine eyes it is.
Prithee, how?
Looking for Silvius in the sun. David told me I should find him in that kiln, you see, and there was a banquet in the cot to entertain him, when, mistaking thee for Sir David his bare buttocks, I called thee villain for him.
I smell a cat. Oh.
So do I, Florida.
If Camilla be not shut into that cat cot, I will wear the cats about my neck for pomanders, Fancia.
I will turn the whole pack a base of three-piled villainy, Florida.
Go we see. Come.
Agreed. Whoop! Camilla!
I told you so.
Where hast been, ruffian? I didn't hear that.
Where hast thou been, ruffian? Sirrah?
Enter Camilla to Fancia and Florida.
Who has played the laundress with your eyes, Hugh?
Come, come. Part of the banquet, Camilla.
Lick your dish, you the dishes, for I have surfeited.
Who was Grand Master of the feast, say you?
Picus was.
Couldst not be ware of one that was picked, fool?
For he came up to me in Sappho's woolen simplicity.
Learchus to me in Christophel, fool's vizard.
Hippolon to me in David's knave's long gown. Now I conceive him right and true.
Oh, villainous race of masculines.
We have played them as good. Therefore, come. Now let's mock at them.
Agreed.
I warrant, when Learchus was in the well, he danced there the canaria with his heels, Fancia.
Yeah, so didst thou when he baited thee in that kiln, Florida.
I wonder the bees found honey in Picus, he being a man so replete with filth.
Possible, like to a thief, when a man carries no money about him, the bees cursed him for very spite.
Never hackney had been so cursed as my hackney hath been.
Having so many horns about his ears, he could not then but gallop the post sure.
Other have run, I set forth mine eyes.
Where dropped they? Say,
I ask you,
for there is no better Orient to be found.
sister, can you spare 1 ounce of your musk?
Shopful, marry.
It's right amber.
Best my cats may yield me.
Thanks, sister. Long shall fetch it.
What's to be done now, sisters three?
Swallow we the drench, then turn we home, 3 to my lady, like Mitchers 3 to sea, say we.
If we bring her not in our day, in our day's account before it be night, we shall stand 3 before her, like unto that last fox that once lost her tail.
With law or outlay rush we on the deer, sisters.
Agreed. I do fear a leash as a collier's mare a whip.
Aye, we all at least, lest we kick at the heels all. Come.
And I think we can assume that everybody exits at that point, even though it is not marked. Okay, does anyone want to attempt to expose the question of David's bum there? Because it does seem that something happened involving a bum. I don't know, but I because it's in dialogue as well as stage directions. In fact, a bit of Latin, which I suppose could also be described as "see below." So I'm not sure what's going on here. Lois.
Well, I'm not sure about this, but clearly Fancia has become practically blind, and no wonder if she was told to stare at the sun without blinking. What a horrible thing to do to somebody. And presumably that's why she, she's seeing, I mean, everybody comments on her eyes when they see her. She's become like an owl. So she presumably has seen something that she mistook for David's bum, but why would she do that? Well, because, let's see, what... I wonder, though, because David leaves her. He must exit, although there isn't an exit marked for him. Do you suppose he does moon her or something just to show what he thinks of her? But, I mean,
she's looking at the sun and she gets the moon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, of course, it's not David anyway. It's Hippolon. So,
yeah.
I mean,
so this is the other revenge, isn't it? This is the thing is she's come asking for some kind of love charm thing for someone.
Sylvius, yeah. We met Sylvius. He was the forester, wasn't he, or something?
Yeah, I think in another version of the text, it is that is the another name for Christophel, the character who's hunting squirrels. So there may be some adjustment. It does seem that Percy was tinkering with who was interacting with whom during the course of the life of this text. And yeah, in the process, there is a scroll given, dropped from above by someone that leads them to release the captured people from their various captured places. So everybody is free, one of whom is partially blind, following this. And once again, we have an awful lot of dialogue that looks like dialogue, but doesn't quite function as dialogue should. It's like people are just saying things at each other, and again, it's not conversation.
Yeah.
Lois.
Yeah, I think some of this probably would be funny if we had the context. I mean, this whole thing about, can you spare 1 ounce of your musk? Oh, shopful, is it right, Amber? I mean, they're clearly joking. The place stinks to high heaven, and they're talking about, oh, could I have some of that perfume? Certainly, I mean, I think it's probably quite funny if you can understand it.
Yes, because in the context here, someone's just been released from a really smelly room, so they're presumably covered in guano. And so that in context that all probably makes a lot more sense, but even so it's still not quite landing. But yeah, there's shape to it. Yeah. Any other thoughts before we move back to the the prankers, or the current prankers, rather than the prankies, though that has swapped during the course of the play. No, I don't see any waving, so we will go on. Act 4, Scene 8, because I skipped one of the scene divisions, which is effectively a separate scene now. Entering at several doors, we have Learchus enters at the middle door. No indication which door the other two enter from. Enter Learchus, Picus, and Hippolon.
Hippolon and Picus, well met you be. Say, how went your plot today? Say, oh say.
Luckily mine as I could wish, my lord.
Mine with pace as sure as trot, I trow.
But come, say you both, I beseech you, how?
By a slight and quaint device, I got my dame into a stinking cot, where she bewailed most clamorously her afflicted throat.
But lettest her forth on that complaint, sirrah?
First I did wish her hanged, I vow. But thou?
Never bear so dance the canary as I made mine to dance in that kiln.
I made mine so to look against the sun, I am right sure she never will henceforth look on him more.
But was she not backward to believe thee so?
No, verily, no.
Why, I pray you, why?
She was wood for one called Silvius.
That curmudgeon of our woods.
The same, I do assure you true.
Good subject hadst to work on, Hippolon.
So persuaded I am. But how now thou?
By the law of Lex Talionis sure, for as I looked one by the water myself, so she for one draught too of cold water endured high burning of the face for same.
My sweetheart, I am sure, is perfumed against her marriage day, most sweetly.
Mine may lead the blind man's Coronto at her wedding day too.
Nay, they be three, am assured, laid up in lavender against the day. But come, let's now wait on Orion all, who by this is with Hypsiphyle on conclusion for this day's sport.
If we linger never so little, we shall taste the leash, sure.
Then come away straight, I say.
And observe how the whores will look us in the face today.
Yes, by my troth, let's come.
Come away, hoa.
We come.
We come.
They exit. So, yes, we basically get... It's quite a useful scene for us because it does fill in all the gaps of the stuff we weren't quite sure what actually happened. So it's quite helpful. Thank you for explaining things. Never dance, but bear never never bear so dance the canary as I'd made mine to dance it in that kiln. So putting her in the kiln does suggest that it's this constant dancing on hot coals. That makes that even worse than we were fearing, actually, to a large degree. The other one, Stinky and yes, and blinded to a large degree. So, I mean, it is an escalation, isn't it, from the initial things? I mean, the one was put down a well. One, who was the one who was trapped in a thing with bees? Because that is potentially quite a painful, nay,
I think it was Picus.
Yeah. Yeah, and in a way, his revenge actually seems moderately reasonable on that in a smelly room full of guano. Because if he had allergies, that could have been a death sentence. I'm working really hard here, people, to try justify the level of tit for tat here. And then Learchus later on just goes, let's go visit the A plot. Do you remember the A plot? There's been 2 scenes with that plot earlier in the play. Shall we go and visit it? Yes, let's do that, because we need to tie some things together as we move towards the end of the play. So yeah, I mean, it's just the way they're all going, ha ha, ha ha, ha ha, and it's just going, no. You may be having a lot of fun with this this concept, but I'm not sure we are. Any thoughts? Have I articulated the room? Elizabeth, then Alan.
I think the banter kind of came off a bit well between Picus, Hippolon, and Learchus. Because some of the dialogue you were saying there wasn't really functioning as dialogue, but between the three men, I think there was a little bit more sense of banter.
Yeah, generally speaking, their dialogue has been more clear as to what the hell they're saying, I think, throughout the play.
What the hell is going on?
Yeah, no, I think that's genuinely they are less purple in their passages, as it were. Alan.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting, and I felt with the previous sequence with the three girls, there did seem to be some rhyming couplets in there, sometimes shared between the participants, and I just wonder if at a pace it would actually come across better. But as you say, this last little sequence with the three fellas, where he does actually explain what the heck was going on, did actually make it a little more clear, because there was a very, very high fog index earlier for me anyway.
Right. Well, let's move on to a separate plot line. This is sort of the area of the C's to D to E plots. I'm sort of labelling them as. Act 4, Scene 9. Sir David meets with Atys, Hylas, Christophel, and Sapho.
Garbage of Babylon.
Or guard bag of the Bubel.
Has been ruffling with ruffins, say.
No, sir.
Hook off, I pray you.
I will leave thee bare as my bum.
You have bared hers, I suppose.
How camest forth my verge? Ha!
I was forced away.
No force.
No force yet upon her, Sir David.
Seest not like an apothecary I carry life and death along with me? Ha!
Life, my belly may witness. See.
Forth with thy suppository, and give her a purge straight.
Suppose I do. What's the sequence thereof?
You would but emancipate your spleen for an ex-case low.
Cipher me but down the sum of him now. Come.
Sir, thus, as we walked along yonder hedge, you see, we all fled, all of us, I may well say, from a beast, I will be sworn, the Lord God of heaven never created.
Hath there been a flood of late? Say.
Of which of the floods speaketh he, may it be supposed, trow?
If there hath been a flood, it is a monster. If not any, it may well stand for a miracle.
Truly, a good man Flood had but new shore his clothes before we came thither.
Aho!
Quid mihi cum hominem? Has there been a flood, a deluge, a cataract, or a cataclysm? Say, I beseech you.
Jupiter threatened us 3 times to teem his whole piss pot upon us.
Belike he supposed you fiddlers.
Jove's eagle snappeth not at flies, I am persuaded.
Yeah, if he had, we would have made heaven hot for him and for his eagle.
So did the giants, and he made earth hot for them.
Pray, master schoolmaster, resolve us our problem.
Demonstrata autem.
What is Jupiter's piss off?
Of balm, I suppose him to be.
Would I had it for the kibes.
'Tis the dew of the welkin.
Why, I pray you, drinking nectar, voideth he but such thin gear then?
Quod supra nos nihil ad nos.
Ah, sir, I thank you.
We have baited long in this diverticle. Go we now therefore to the shambles, all we, I say. We may there display the anatomy of this creature you talk.
The foot of an eagle, the back of a bear, the belly of an ounce, a neck of nothing, and the head of a scullion with an appendix of horns directly butting from him. 4th row.
Jupiter, burst thou not open the bulk of my patience.
Sir Priscian, what ails you?
Knowledge and ignorance be at buffet in my brain concerning the abject. See?
Hereupon your judgment, I pray, sir.
Shew me but his whole.
There.
Lo, he now peepeth forth to you also.
Enter Solomon to all of this lot. Hello!
He is nothing, an idol, a chimera.
Hello!
Why not Scoggins' beast as well?
Differences. The one showeth the head, the other showed his tail.
I believe he be Siccius dentatus, his ghost. He so grinneth on us, lo.
Hello! And Solomon retires.
I have a charm will fetch him. I will but into the sexton for bell, and for holy water, and come to you incontinently.
John of the Townsend, being asked what his opinion of a Jew-worm he said he was a thing, a master schoolmaster that is learned being demanded of no abject animal by the rude, he affirmeth him to be nothing.
I say he is above a thing, for he is compact of many things.
I wonder whether there be fairies.
A butcher looked about for a knife he held in his mouth, and he, a fairy himself, inquireth whether there be any booths. What?
But to assure you there be fairies, I'll tell you what I did myself, gentlemen.
Repeat now.
Once upon a time, in likeness of a fly, I fell into an old woman's churn, where with the milk so long I did piddle, where with the cream so long I did fiddle, that the wise women of the parish had been brought thither to uncharm him by their spells. For all the buttoning of their buttocks, they could not bring him to butter all.
A syllabub it was, I warrant, before thou left it, Sapho.
Heardst ever a fly to piss? Ass!
T'have gone to stool, I have.
And now will you hear what I did?
With our hearts bevote, Atys.
Once on a St. Clement's night, I fell into a barber's bowl in form of a crab, where so long I bobbed against the mouth of him between wind and water, that in spite of his nose, to the pleasure of the whole company of beholders there, he went to bed sober as he sat down.
Meanwhile thou soakest in the whole liquor, Atys.
Aye, and it soaked me into my own airy shape again, too.
Now for me, sir, I pray you.
Say, we do hear.
I crabbed on a time between a gentlewoman's legs in her sleep, in likeness of a flea. She, supposing it had been a louse, caught me between superficies of her finger and thumb, when as I, by reason of that small corpulence I then possessed, slipping forth her nails, kept such a tickling in her concavity the whiles, she ran like a mad cow about the chamber all that night, till being broad day, as fair as shone the morning star, I then leapt right from forth her, so vanished into mine own airy shape again too.
Why didst thou not get her with child, sir, our boy?
If I had then gotten her with child, being then far less than I am now myself, I might so have engendered on her a thing called just, good, or little as nothing.
Oh!
Prithee, brown Sapho, why, being so long in the churn, forgettest thou to wash thy face there?
That is the gods metamorphose, not I.
I will be my witness, since the time the goddess mother cut away my stones.
Aye, since the time they new christened me in a bucket of water, I suppose.
What's to be done now? The schoolmaster's fallen asleep. I suppose him true.
Into some dyke, I believe.
I think he be bewrayed.
Go, we gather the nuts he hath botted, if we find him so. If not, there be many more.
Quod sub intellegitur non dist. Come.
Yet come your ways. Let us but eat one mess of cream. After, Come forth, seek him where we lost him, Faith.
With our whole hearts, Master Christophel.
First, a song. We all do beseech you, sir.
And there is a song. Right pepper is black, and hath a good smack for any mouths that dainty, which if she do lack, I know it will crack the fairest maid of 20. Come on then, my shrew, as black as a crow, now kiss me 1 full million, then for the last throw I'll show thee a blow, shall call loud for the pillion. To carry thee hence, then frolic, dear wench, and get thee on thy safeguard. For I will not flinch from off this low bench, till I get thee in safeguard. I will so beslaver thy sweetest black favour, that all this church shall ring in joy of I have her, with all their life labour. Now all let's dance and fling, exeunt, and they knocked up the consort. Okay. So that was a scene that was perfectly clear, utterly unproblematic. Once again, we're into this difficult, problematic area of what is going on with representation with Sapho, which is sort of reaching its apogee at the end of this scene here. But yes, let's answer the question of the age. What is Jupiter's piss of? I spoke before of how this feels like someone's just fed a sort of series of play examples into an algorithm, and this is the thing that the computer has thrown up. Actually, I'm now thinking this isn't. What this is William Percy has collected over the ages as many dirty jokes or silly puns as he can, and he's just offloaded them onto a page in order. And so I thought, oh, that'll do. Because it's just, it does seem this whole sequence is just a series of excuses to tell slightly off-colour jokes and rude things and anything that sounds a bit off. But I've no idea why any of this is being said, and I've no idea why they're doing any of it. Why are they talking? Why does this scene exist? What is it for? I'm getting quite annoyed with this play. Can you tell?
Yes.
Alan.
They found the dodgy fungi in the woods again. It's a bad trip.
It's not even that. I mean, it's not surreal. It's just yeah.
Well, it's certainly not real.
Well, I mean, I'm sure actually a lot of this sort of banter is representative of the kind of things that people talk about when slightly drunk in a tavern. But even then, I suspect in your cups you have a more structured debate than this. I don't know why none of it seems connected to other bits. Why does Solomon just turn up and go, "Hello"? What was that? Aliki, tell me what was going on.
I think he was the beast.
He was the beast.
I think so. They saw him and he dressed all funny and weird looking. Because it was when they were talking about him as if he was the beast that they were talking about before.
Right.
I think. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know why there was a beast, and I don't know why he was doing hello, but I do think he was the beast.
So it's not. I was sort of doing it like hello, but just slightly different. But maybe it is more. Hello. Maybe it was more like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's as logical an explanation as any other, thing. Other thoughts, Elizabeth?
Yeah, I was like thinking, like, is this supposed to be like a trip, like a bad trip that they've all taken? And then is the language supposed to be like edifying that? And so is the fact that the language is so obtuse and so like difficult, it's supposed to be that engaging with this fact that they're on some sort of bad drug-induced fever dream.
Yeah, I mean, it's maybe we sort of try and break it down into sequences, because there are sort of elements of what's going on across the scene, that stuff's going on, because it sort of starts with this moment where they're all sort of are they basically slut shaming Sapho at the very beginning? Yeah. Is that sort of what was going on? It seemed that was what was going on, and that problematic representation continues towards the end as well, because for those who weren't here last time or previous times, Sapho is referred to as brown Sapho. And not brown, and so there's a question of representation here, and someone else has basically blacked up to be Sapho in disguise earlier in the play. So it's quite a problematic text in many respects. We don't know whether Sapho is just supposed to be, because they're a shepherdess outdoors, they're just very heavily tanned. But the more I'm reading this, it doesn't feel like that's where it's going, especially with the song towards the end of this scene as well. So there's some really odd things going on here, especially as actually we're going into that almost colonial phase at the very beginning of the text, when on our first session, when there are a couple of sequences where it's talking about people from far off lands in less complimentary ways. So it's mixing in all sorts of really tricky stuff from the early 17th century, and there's more of this kind of stuff to come as we go further forward in history, as this stuff becomes more and more active, and as the trading empires and slavery becomes a more active presence in English life as well as in the rest of the world. Other thoughts after taking us down that depressing side road? Lois.
Well, Sapho, I think, is also pregnant, isn't she? Presumably by David, but he's furious at her at the beginning of the scene, I think. Though I'm not quite sure why. I think he may think that these guys have actually done some of the things they were thinking of doing in one of the earlier scenes.
I'm not then sure how we got on to Jupiter's piss, but I'm sure there was a connective tissue somewhere.
Yeah, and then these guys are all talking about this beast that they've seen, and then I think Aliki's right that then when Solomon appears, they think that was the beast, but then there's, what are they doing with this beast though? Aren't they supposed to be taking it somewhere? I don't know. I can't quite figure this out. And then there's something about looking through a hole, which I suppose has the usual double meaning.
But they don't seem to do anything with it. It's like the beast turns up, it's like, oh, there's a beast, and they just keep talking amongst themselves. They totally ignore. It's like they've set him up and he just wanders on and just goes, and everyone just sort of misses it. It's like...
Yeah. No, I think some of this, maybe Percy is actually picturing something very clearly, but hasn't conveyed it in the stage directions.
Which is to say, it's this really odd thing that sometimes we have these massive, never-ending stage directions describing necessary things, but then when it comes to quite important actions, that there are these bits that are actually missing that we don't have at all. Francis.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be any logical sequence to this. Like you say, people just say things and then somebody else says something else, and you're just like, how are these two things connected? There's nothing to sort of grab onto.
Yeah, it's yes, it's a thing, isn't it? It's a strange thing. Okay, let's go into Act 5, because I'm sure it'll all be tied up neatly there, and it all makes
You're so optimistic,
sense.
Rob.
He said, well, never know, we might get lucky, there might be squirrels, so let's hope for squirrels, because I think frankly only squirrels can save this text. So Act 5, Scene 1. Orion with a hare. These are the hunters, have been hunting things. So Orion with a hare bound by the hind legs to his hunt spear. Hypsiphyle with a head of a hart in one hand and a hunt spear in the other. There is a chorus of huntsmen and huntswomen. They met on either side. Orion speaks as follows. So in the scene, Orion, Hypsiphyle, and chorus.
Lady Hypsiphyle, now we shall see whether hath observed the better law in taking as in promoting his game, by consequence whether the more noble sport. Say, what's your game?
A hart, my lord. And yours?
A hare.
Then, Lord Orion, since that so your honour is the challenger, propound your oppositions, and if I do not confute them, and with stronger vigour too, never while Elvida is Elvida, let I slip dog more.
Lady, you be too confident, for I must tell you, there falls many a chance between the cup and lip, to show you which, I begin to you thus. Before I start a hare, so ho, I cry, about his form, to give him warn thereby.
Never I on lodged hart, but 3 times first I whistled about him before he rushed.
When hares be start, I get not then start, when you lay dogs in vauntlay for the heart.
Albeit you get not of the hare the start, yet you will murder him before he part.
To compass in a heart when he's at bay, what call you it? Is it not murder, pray?
Better with sword and dog we pull him down, than with his ragged bill he gore my hound.
We only hunt a hare with single sleight, and you a hart with bound and feathery flight.
The fleeting shaft may wander well as hit, so no wrong we offer in the use of it.
Ah, but do not you bring him to a stand. After aim upon him his shroud in stand.
But do not you, the hind legs longer than the first, cause hares of owl amount their necks to burst.
Tumbleth faster than the dogs can run. In so doing, I hope the hare hath won.
When hart's in head, all other beasts do pass. Ever a hare is headed like an ass.
When matter faileth, fall you to your trick. Noble lady, have at you with the like. A hart not only bears a cuckold's note, but also wears to boot a forlorn's coat.
Witches in shapes of hares have oft been seen, but never in true heart have witches been.
Albeit in heart a witch hath never been, under horns yet hath the devil been seen.
The hart's a gentleman by his velvet crown, when hares by hairy cap present the clown.
Though hearts wear velvet, yet it shows, I wis, but threadbare gallants by its mouldiness.
A hare is said to change from sex to sex, and bounden births in nature be defects.
A hare and breeds and knots and brings at once, and stores no sore, as do the wise pronounce.
I never saw a hare but melancholy, and melancholy notes timidity.
And the hart horn mad, of which in proof you may discern a devil by his hoof.
The devil hath too, they say, been seen in hare, and may appear sometime in goatish hair.
Though in goatish hair the devils appear, yet that in a hare too you may forbear.
What will you say if I do prove, my lord, hares be not to be eaten by the word?
What will you say if I do plain declare you be a Jew that will not eat a hare?
I will not answer your sophist argument.
You will not answer my sophist argument?
In faith, sir, no. You may well be content.
Then you will grant I have won the game of you.
You may, but deeply withal from hence vow, never to set foot in this chase with you.
Oh, yet tarry the while, that's the short and long. You may carry with you the wine along. Fairies, you must put in your counters too.
We have, my lord.
I thank you now.
Farewell, my lord.
Nay, albeit by the die I have won, thou shalt find yet that noble Orion was never but honourable, eke stayed in either fortune. Retire we two both to our several courts, therefore to provide Hypsiphyle for our celebrations, so to consummate our bridal here soon, and come you all provide for this triumph.
So do, for in each respect doth deserve it.
Exit. So, well, we've been here before. You know, we've been here before with pretty much every time they come on and they do some couplets at each other, and back and forth it goes in a way that's not, you can see what he's aiming for, but he's not quite landing it, is he? Apparently, so to consummate our bridal here soon. So by the end of it, they're getting married. It's like it's supposed to be inferred from all the flirty fighting that we've had in this text, but at no point do you get any sense of a progression in their relationship at all. It's just like, this is sort of inferred, this is sort of understood.
Yeah.
Kind of enjoy it. Other people do this kind of stuff a lot better. But you can see what he's aiming for. You can see what he's aiming. He's trying. He's having a go, and he spends the better part of 50 years tinkering to make this as good as he can. Lois.
Yeah, I mean, I think the influence behind all these is the song contest, isn't it, in classical poetry? Because it works like that. I mean, two shepherds sit down and compete, and they each sing the same number of lines about something, and each one has to kind of answer the other ones. And then somebody usually is brought in to say who won. It seems to me that's what they're doing, but it goes on forever.
Yeah, and it's the kind of form we might be seeing as well in sort of your royal entertainments and other kind of texts that do, all courtly entertainments where you've got this kind of more formal thing that's usually much shorter and separated and much more part of a thing that you sit through before you move on to the next thing, rather than as part of a narrative. And it's, structurally we've seen this sort of verse form and this kind of back and forth done elsewhere in other plays, sort of this ilk and sort of in a pastoral vein. But I say it's just not desperately well done here. Francis?
Yeah, I sort of enjoyed the rhythm of the scene, and I like the structure of it, even if I couldn't quite understand every word. I sort of got the whole idea that, the sort of the banter and the sort of battle of wits almost. But I love the line, where is it? For I must tell you, there falls many a chance between the cup and the lip. I thought that was the best line of the play so far.
Sadly, it is something of a commonplace, so it's...
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Oh, God. I knew it. I knew it.
Yeah. That's rather damning for Percy, isn't it?
His best line comes from someone else. In fact, from everyone else.
Oh, I don't know. I think he has written some zingers. They're just all really rude zingers. And they're not really connected with other lines of dialogue. I've got a lot of quotable lines. It's just they're only quotable in very, very a narrow range of company.
Yeah. And I agree with Lois. It dragged on far too long. You could cut the whole thing in half.
But I like the idea of following Lois's thought on this, song cycle sort of quality to it. And we talked about, I think Alan brought this up either yesterday or the day before, there's almost a rap battle going on at times as well, with not necessarily with this particular exchange, but maybe we should be thinking more musically about this text as well, that actually there's a dynamic to it that we're not quite getting. Or maybe I'm just trying too hard. Okay, let's move on to another scene. Act 5, Scene 2. Enter Christophel, Atys, Hylas, and Sapho.
Since we cannot find the schoolmaster, how shall we now drive the time all till he come? Say, my dear gentleman, say.
We will seek for caddoes in thy nose, Christophel our.
Piddle on me. I will hamper you as Hercules once hampered the pygmies, boys.
How was that, say?
I will stone you two between my two nails, Atys and Hylas mine.
Dost take me for a louse, Christophel?
For a nit, Atys, I do.
But what's to be done, say?
We will barrel this tongue against next rogation, masters.
Rather, let us set some fowen trap for the pedant.
He stinketh sufficiently.
On my conscience he does.
Way, you atheist.
Thou'rt a nod fellow, Christophel.
I know it too well. But patience, for lo, here he comes.
Act 5, Scene 3. David, come forth with holy water. Sprinkle in one hand, a bell, great and deep-ish, and sounding in the other. Enter David to the lot.
A hall, gentlemen, a hall.
Where hast been so long bungling? Say, O thou hard head, say.
Sirrah, we have ransacked all and each buzzard's nest to find thee forth between this and Obera.
What said the parson, sirs, when he fell in on the wench? Trow?
I know not.
What? I prithee say.
Non potus brevius.
But when do you begin your devil's dirige, I pray you?
In a sprinkle, say but you clum at every stave's end, then let me alone, myself mump the remainder.
Lo now, he peepeth forth to you. See and behold.
A schismatic he is. I do avow it to you all. Sirs, come.
Act 5, Scene 4. Here they kneeled all on one leg, with their heads in the palms of their hands. The schoolmaster the while stands on his legs, with bell and holy water, sprinkle in his hand. Enter Salomon, to David, etc. Calla!
Set, masters, set. Batare signeus repetamus carmine virtus.
Clum.
Plum.
Everybody says clum. Let's try that again.
Clum. You gods of the earth and deep, you hold full well in keep. Whether we eat or sleep, none does preserve his sheep. Nisi dominus.
Clum.
Plum.
Now, monster in thy cell, give ear to what I tell. Forsake the seat you dwell, or be the devil of hell. Aedificarit domum.
Plum.
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 Mammon and Orchi pater, great masters of the weather, with sprinkle of this feather, blow thus I try them wither, in varnum laborarent.
Plum.
In name of thundering Jove, and of his choir above, I charge them to remove from forth this dusty oath, qui edificant eam.
Clum.
Plum.
Clum.
Calla!
He retireth. Now the charm beginneth to work. See?
Calla!
God and saint sepulchre to boot.
Solomon retires.
Now lo you all, honest gentlemen, et nusquam est et nullum est. As I said first to you and before,
Be this the foresaid for Paul's, for actors, see the direction at later end of this pastoral, which is separate by itself. Extra olents, as they say.
He hath proved him a chimera or idol indeed, La, for he hath turned him into no thing just.
This was right learnedly performed of you, master schoolmaster, by my troth.
In recompense of the which, you sir, we will bestow on you a well-measured peck of our fairy comforts, for to comfort your crazy stomach with them.
Take from behind the arras, stand by for squirrels, people, a peck of goodly acorns.
See and behold.
I do willingly accept of the benefit, for my day's labour, I suppose, hath deserved the same.
Excellent, as I have seen.
Master Christophel, can you show me a device toward taming of a squirrel? Say,
Show me but his physiognomy.
He would have you tame him, not take a copy of him.
Pythagoras, before he poured in his helicon, considered the face of his boy.
By same reason, you mind give him a purge?
Not amiss it would be.
lo, sir.
A pretty animal he is. He's the first I have seen in my days. Poke him, I pray you.
Sir, I thank you heartily for my learning.
Much good do it to you, sir, likewise.
How now, master schoolmaster? In your mementos, sir, what?
Speak, I beseech you. What's it afflicts you?
Shake off these dumps and go along with us, come.
Your answer, I beseech you now, come.
Gentlemen, I will but knock a coney on the head and come to you incontinently.
He led forth his trull here.
With the pox to conduct you.
And stable door to be shut upon you now.
Best of all. But come your ways now. After our sport, let us wait on our masters all. Come.
Lupus est in fabula. Lo, yonder they come.
and they all remain on stage. The exit of Trull here as David and Sapho earlier. Okay, lots to like about this scene. I've got to say, I'm liking a lot of this. I mean, I don't know why any of it's happening, but I really like this whatever strange charm ritual thing with this beast that they're pretending to tame. Is that what's going on here? And everyone going clum and ringing bells. I just think it is exactly the kind of madness that we had in Dream for a Dry Summer, where there was some strange ritual going on with balls that people were bending over and passing between them. And it's exactly the same sort of silly ritual game here in a more pastoral setting. And I really enjoyed it. I don't know why it was happening. I still don't know what is going on with this element. We must have missed something earlier that explained what the hell is going on here, because I just don't know. But I enjoyed going Kalau. And everyone going clum. So I suspect that's I don't know. Is it some sort of ASMR thing? I don't know. So that was enjoyable. And then we got a callback to the squirrel and how do you tame a squirrel? Sadly, not fully developed, but there was a little moment there where I was going, okay, I'm going with this. And then they sort of just moved on and did something else, which is it's just so full of non sequiturs. Why does David say suddenly randomly go, what said the parson, sirs, when he fell in on the wench? And go, why do you say that at that moment? What's going on? Is that not non sequiturs? Lois, tell me what's going on.
Well, that was a moment of great excitement for me because there is a location along the Thames near St. Catherine's Dock, which is the place where the priest fell in upon the wench. And there are other references to it, but I hadn't, and it's in, of course, Eastward Ho, which I've just sent off again to the editors. And I probably should stick this in because it's interesting. I don't know which version of the play it appears in, but Eastward Ho is 1605. I mean, I don't know what this thing is about the priest falling in upon the wench, but it was absolutely notorious. People keep saying that they would even show people that. It was a sort of tourist attraction. That's where the priest fell in upon the wench.
Yeah. There's a walking tour I've missed. Aliki, muted at present. And then Francis.
I'm astonished because I thought it was just another dirty joke, as you know, I won't get in the habit, as the nun said to the bishop, kind of thing.
Yes, and I do think there may be sort of other parallels with that kind of thing elsewhere, and it rings a bell. But yeah, if it's actually got a specific locality and a specific connection, maybe that's what we're missing here. Is that's actually the locality of it all. That this is actually very fixed to its geography and of its time. But even so, it doesn't feel connected to other things. I like the idea that there's some squirrel taming going on. I want a demonstration of squirrel taming. I apologise. I meant to dig out a puppet squirrel, and I forgot to do it. So I am sorry. I'm sorry. Next time I will remember the squirrel. Okay, promise.
Well, is there a squirrel? I mean, Christophel says he's a pretty animal. He is the first I have seen in my days, and then he says poke him. Do they poke him? Is there something there?
Yeah, it did feel to me like they've got maybe a little cage with a puppet thing in it that says poke the squirrel. I don't know, is that a euphemism? I'm not sure the lingo. It does seem that there's a bit of business there, and if there isn't, it damn well should be.
Yes, yeah. And then this thing with the David, he seems to get depressed again, and then he's got that great line, I'll but knock a coney on the head and come to you again. I mean, a coney's a rabbit, but I take it he's talking about punishing Sapho. He's presumably depressed. And then that bit about shutting the stable door, that's presumably the proverb we all know about shutting the stable door after the horse is stolen. But now, does that mean that he's depressed because Sapho is pregnant and it's not by him or something? I mean...
Yes, because he enters and leads the ritual, and but one of his and Sapho says the mighty line of oomph. Yes. I mean, what at that point does that mean? It's I don't know why anything's happening, but I did kind of weirdly enjoy the things that happened, even if I didn't know why they were happening. So anyway, many of them have remained on stage for the bit where everyone's probably going to start talking to themselves. So fingers crossed this flows reasonably well. Act 5, Scene 5. I mean, does it really matter? It's all Dadaist soup, isn't it? Anyway, enter Orion with a letter reading. Hypsiphyle, Learchus, Picus, Hippolon, Florida, Camilla, Fancia, to Atys, Hylas. Everybody's on. Let's just make it there. The 6 huntsmen and women bearing on either side a banquet of diverse and sundry sorts of junkets in goodly gold and silver bowls. Silvius Hunter and Sylvia Huntress on either side of them with 2 Venice mazers or standing bowls of glass. The one with a fragrant Malmsey, the other with Spanish sack. So he can give us lots of descriptions of this kind of stuff, but not stuff that's dramatically helpful. Thank you. Orion and Hypsiphyle in their wedding adornments. Orion takes his bride by the hand, then speaks as follows.
Come on, noble lady of the whole land, since now our liege is gone. Come, mount we this campestral old chapel, once built by fairies, there to combine, as long as I have longed, mutually ourselves in one, so to henceforth eternally confirm this league.
And here Orion and Hypsiphyle sit.
And you, right worthy rangers of these holy woods, bind you by your assents this lasting knot, as I will swear to maintain unto you your ancient laws and rights. Oh, this is all I have to say to you now. So fair proceed you to our installment, you fairies all.
And here Atys, the princes, having seated themselves, stepping between the 2 chorus, said the apology, following with one accord the rest to the princes in the man and form following. So Atys reading the apology here.
The mighty rector of the skies is sane, 2 coffers into his custody t'ave ta'en. The one grief, woe, and sad repentance locks, mirth, glee, and charis in the other box. With the one he salves a good king's distress, with the other allays tyrants' happiness. In the one he wills us to hope for clemency, in the other bids us to despair and die. So we, before we yield our utmost clause unto the empire of our present cause, within these bowls, as in Pandora's cup, with lowly hearts and breathed tunes given up, present our hopes and fears. In that be still the females' pale accounts. In this be drilled, I ween, in purest drops of Maluzine, the ambiguous fortunes of our masculine. Now, our grand liege, if done we shall but right, release our shoulders of the leash this night. Mel et butyrum inde comedis, ut sciris eligere bonum et effugere malum, long live Orion, now king of the fairies.
Here Silvius and Sylvia stepping up the degrees after had set the Venice glasses or mazes on either side. The princes, the sack by Hypsiphyle and the Malmsey by Orion, then holding the imperial garland that hung over the front of the chapel over both their heads, and then setting him alone on the head of Orion. The whole chorus of huntsmen, men and women, saluted His Majesty, all with one accord. All together now, everyone.
Long live Orion, now king of the fairies.
And we have a song. With solemn oath and humble vow, we've ground his highness now. Let us too in submissive show before his presence bow. Io, io, let us sing unto our now fairy king. Behold, we tender him our love, with gifts such as we may. From fairy swain may not great Jove expect a better pay. Io, io, let us sing unto now our fairy king. Receive us now, most worthy king, with self that same sign. The simple tokens that we bring them to thy shrine. Io, io, let us sing unto our now fairy king.
Now tell me what be in your bowls contained.
Such junkies fair as afford we have brought, shall give small gifts to your highness.
Notwithstanding, I thank you, and will be right ready do you any turn I may. So set them down, and remember what I do promise you.
Methinks, my lord, the fairies, by their looks, have far prompter minds to god Cupid's bow than to Latinides, for ever since, my lord, you began to mount these steps, they have naught but glanced the one upon the other, saving that respect they bear to your presence.
I did observe it, sweet, and would be glad to see it so, for great thereby would be this league. Say, ladies, be you agreed how to yield yourselves in match unto our fairies?
Shall I, that gem I pawned to Delia, yield unto one, who with all the might he might sought to have corrupted it by force of fume to his bad use? I can nor will now yield.
Who cannot the destinies withstand? No more can he withstand a woman's will. Self-will, self-have. I care not one point but for peevish Florida. What says Camilla to the match?
If infection comes from that stinks, I say my suitor stinks, and will none of him. Jakes be upon thee, sweet Camilla.
Fancia, I hope, will not be perverse, but will yield to my suit.
Faith, no, sir. You shall be served with salt and spoons, effects.
Is this your best resolution? Speak, maid.
It is.
And yours?
Yes, verily.
What says Florida?
Flatly, she will none of him.
Why, my dear girls, if nothing will allay the rigour of your spleens, yet do you once say that the Queen of Fays did entreat you?
And the King of the Fays also, sweet pieces.
I say your graces both must pardon me.
And me.
Me too.
Go to, peevish giglets, I will have it so. Be it a match, I say.
And for incensed Hypsiphyle her part, my maids, since so perverse you be, deny but once more, and ne'er look her in her face more.
A hard injunction by my troth, madam.
Resolve, foolish giglets, I bid you true.
Phew.
Phew.
Then will none of you resolve, huh?
Now woe be gone, thou poor Camilla, true.
The direst hap that e'er befell me too.
Come, come, I say, or have my wrath to boot.
And mine also, my girls, without all doubt.
True.
Boo!
Who holds that will away, they say? Force of such charms will break through forts, I see. Yet as far as might may, thus I do oppose them, saving that bath I did apply upon him, to purge him of his manners, yet ever I loved Learchus well.
What may a man have but revenge on an enemy, than of a friend? I pardon Florida.
And they transcend each after their couplets to other.
Before thou wert a beggar, Picus. Now thou comes with rubies. Well, it's a match.
And sadly, you're coupleting with yourself.
But dinner is defrayed to your cost, dame.
Fancia, begins my charm but now to work.
Pollen, of thy toil I long to ease thee.
Did I not tell you it would be a match?
Madam, you did, and now do clearly see that however in hearts cursed you be, yet women all will say nay and hunt it.
Aye, and you say aye, and alway burnt it.
Nay, and you, however you account it. But where is Christophel, that gallant? We have not seen him in the chase today.
Here I am, and shall like you.
Sirrah, you, say, where wonst when thy presence was required? To bring the gazing deer unto the stands, to blow their death and to show the heart, to take the guts and to reward the hounds, loose the numbles and break up the deer? Show me your day's account, I read you. Come.
There stand my sureties, and here is my bail.
And he shows the squirrel taken from one of the pages.
Loitering, Lozel. This is a time to spend now? To squirrel hunt with children and with pedants? That practice thou hadst from thine infancy in points of game and laws of woodmanship? I am ashamed it should be spoken. Wherefore, Christophel, mark thou me now well, what I am to intimate unto thee. As lazily thou hast loitered this day, so shalt thou as lustily be leashed this night. I swear it by the head of Delia. And you, my lords of Elvida, even as I find you've joined you in nuptial bands, so would I exhort unity now too, for so the vigor of your loves will be a bond unto this future golden time. Else, like a sheaf of arrows self-inbound, all will fall to mammocks. Record you this, and say Orion once to have told you it. Serve God, obey your prince, preserve your game.
This your sacred legan we will imprint sure.
Roundly do you see you leash him first, for this day's trespass, soundly and roundly too. It shall be done, my lord, effectually.
All laud and thankings to King Orion.
A pause.
Now, fairies, my good god knight to you all.
Long live Orion and his worthy bride.
And good fortune unto you all betide.
Here they shut both into the canopy, Fane or Trophy together.
Come on your ways, my most venerous and gallant sir, come on.
Go where you on before, we will follow you. We stay but for the company to go along with us.
We attend you.
Another pause.
Sweet wags, convert we now all to the gentlemen, who too long have expected us, I fear, and listen you to that I shall now intimate to them concerning ourselves.
Well said, Learchus. Speak you to them in behalf of all, for the gentlemen all be better pleased with you than with us, I trow.
Beshrew my heart, but I believe you, Florida.
I will be sworn on a book for them, Camilla.
My fear is, Fancia, that they will not be too well pleased with the men neither.
Who so, sweet Florida?
Because they have been 3 such sheep as to have matched them with us being 3 such shrews.
Nay, nay, we have a sure remedy for that in our fairy institutions, lamb.
What? Good Learchus, say.
A divorce from bed and from board, sweet mouse.
If there be any such law upon the file, I will not forego Picus, my lord and my joy, for better nor for worse, I vow. Who? I do not thank thee, though, for that thy late unkindness towards me, sweet Camilla. With this strict kiss, see, I do make thee now amends for it, dear Picus.
Orion, good sadness, la. I find my horse never so restive.
A bargain is a bargain, they say, so let it rest.
What says kind Florida to the match?
Hum, hum.
Nay, then I see what will become of you before night too by your humming. But, sweet wag, interrupt me no more. I may make now an end with the gentlemen who do expect us, lo.
Speak, you woodcock.
Thus I begin my suit then. Hark, and listen all.
And Learchus says some stuff.
How to begin a work none knows but he that hopes how to end it. For as in action the end is last, so in the attention 'tis ever first. Our ends we know, hope first, next largesse of your hands. If that we gain, it serves the senate to our scene. If this a glorious crown of palms, but oh the while our merits be too weak, and grief for them in spines doth grow. What else? The tooth of black-mouthed spite destroys. Then since our luck is such, we crouch you all by the old accustomed spell, that hand but speaks that loves Orion well.
Come, come, bandog of Molossus, come along, ho.
Hi, pre sequar.
There was no shoving here of the knave forward, but they went on before, and he followed after. End. Okay. So, yay for the squirrel. And I now have an idea what to do with this play. It's always been quite a squirrel-centric view of the play, and I think I have a through line now. There's several things here. Obviously, they're contriving some sort of ending where they all get matched together at the end. Yay. In a way that's just very unsatisfactory, because it's like, I don't like them. Pooh. And then they're sort of talked around. There does seem to be a sort of very there's money. Okay, well, that'll do it. But yeah, this constant use of, for the listeners at home, pew is PW, not a W, two U's. And there's lots of these little sound expressions written in the script. There's a lot of these sort of noises, and we've got humming, which may be expanded upon. And yeah, so it's this contrived and romantic comedy sort of ending where everyone gets married at the end. I mean, even more so than any other play where they fail to resolve it in a satisfactory way. This is just like, oh, this is what the play expects us to do now. Should we do it that? Yes, end. And it's sort of, they don't really make any kind of proper sustained argument for or against. They just say, oh, that's sort of what we're doing now. But then Christophel turns up with a squirrel. So he's going, what have you been up? Where have you been? You're supposed to be helping us hunt. I've got a squirrel. That's a good element that I enjoyed. But otherwise, yeah, a lot of stuff. Oberon, who only appeared once in the play, has got a successor. That's not really very well explicated. Why is any of this happening? And yeah, why is any of this happening? And why are we pausing?
Yeah.
Does anyone know what the pauses are for? I mean, it's like Pinter has just randomly rocked up and just goes, let's have a random pause, shall we? How's that? Oh dear. Okay. Thoughts in the room. Sorry, I'm getting a bit hysterical, so I think you might be able to tell. Elizabeth, please draw me to some sanity.
I thought that they would resolve somehow into like some sort of sense, but it really didn't. And at the end of it, there was a bit of more nonsense to just be like, and there and so there. So you wanted me to make sense, but no way. And I just thought that it was really funny, because I thought towards the end, usually most plays, they do kind of resolve. But this one, I'm not sure. I'm still very not sure what's going on.
Well, it's like it's got the conventions of resolving to an end, but he just doesn't do it very well, and you don't know what anyone's saying. I mean, I know what they're saying, I just don't know what they're actually saying, word by word. Lois.
Yeah, I don't know whether the Orion Hypsiphyle thing relates to anything. I mean, the crowning of a king, the whole ceremony, whether it's somehow meant to be tied in with some other special event or a wedding or something that it alludes to. I don't know if that really helps. But, I mean, one thing I think I got, I mean, the people keep talking about being afraid of the leash at the end of the day and having to have their accounts and so on. I mean, the three ladies and the three men, I don't see what on earth they're going to say, because they've wasted the entire day and playing tricks on each other, but somehow or other, the fact that they get married, I suppose, is enough. But it is this bit about accounts that finally does for Christophel, because he can't present anything except the squirrel, and then he is given the leash. So this must be the thing they've all been worried about. But I can't quite make out what it is. I mean, he seems to be led on a lead, isn't he? I mean, he was originally going to be shoved forward, and they call him the bandog of Molossus. I think somebody is kind of dragging him along. I don't know whether he has to go all the way, all through the woods like this or what, but I think there's some ceremony involved anyway.
We did have someone on a leash earlier in the play, and I forget the context. Was that? Was that?
Oh, and then some woman comes on with a leash around her neck, doesn't she?
Yeah,
there's
but
never any explanation.
with no explanation within the scene as to what's actually going on.
Yeah.
I think there might be a decoding element here that if this is semi-designed for, a wedding, and it's more like a mask, because elements of it are quite mask-like. We mentioned, other kinds of sort of formal entertainments that might exist. That it's sort of maybe it's caught halfway between one thing and another, and it never quite resolves where it's going to land. Because you've got stuff that isn't very appropriate for a mask, all of the low comedy that it has some stuff in it. So maybe that sort of answers our question as to why it's so weird, beyond Percy's inimitable writing style.
Yeah.
Lois again.
Well, another point about punctuation, particularly that last speech of Learchus. I'm sure everybody's reminded of a speech to an audience where the punctuation is all wrong, and this really almost looks like the same kind of thing.
Whether that's original or just our failure in tidying the text up is probably a mixture of both. Other thoughts before we go into final thoughts? No, we're good. Okay, I'll be mean. I'll go to Elizabeth first. You haven't read 2/3 of this play, and you've come in here. Any final thoughts?
There was this lovely silence just now, and I just thought that we all felt a bit shell shocked, and I just feel like it's one of those plays that it's like I'm really glad I wasn't here for the first 2/3 because it doesn't do anything. It kind of just is going on, and it's supposed to be. And you see that the author was well intentioned. There are intentions here, but none of them land. So I'm glad I didn't have to sit through the first 2/3 of it.
Yeah, it has to be said that at least one member of the group may have bailed with some deliberation not to return. So it really can be involved. I'm really starting to understand why some people don't believe that William Percy's plays were ever staged by a boys' company. That maybe he's just this guy who just keeps sending scripts, and that they're just collected later in his life, and with this sort of, and it becomes sort of true. Whereas I can understand that, though I can also see that these are doable plays within the context of the time, but that we're probably missing a lot of information. But it's a funny one. Alan, any final thoughts? No.
Totally bloody confused. I've got no idea what the heck he was trying to do, if anything. And the more I go, I blame the local herbalists.
It's interesting because if you look at it sort of from an aerial view, if you don't look at the dialogue, if you look at what the play is structured to do, it's fine. It's very conventional. We have two people, hunters who are sort of have flirty fighting, who get married. That links setting up a sort of structure to the rest of the play as we go down the sort of social ladder. We got the three tit for tat courtiers, their love match, which resolves very badly for us in modern times, but at the time it was very conventional for it to work that way. And then you've got the lower status characters mostly doing bants, which is vaguely interconnected. Sit down and fiddle out some of what actually the banter is actually going on. It's fine. It's just unfortunately you didn't have to read the dialogue he wrote. And when you read the dialogue he wrote, it all just turns to mush around us because it's very frustrating. And every so often he comes out with a really good line. So it's like it's so close, and yet it's just so far, and it's not even like it's a long play. It just feels like a long play. Francis, any final thoughts? You missed the middle of the play. Anything to add?
And I am not sorry I did.
There were some good bits in the middle, actually. I quite liked some.
Right, I'll take your word for it. I agree with you. The structure and the rhythm is fine. It's all very familiar, but linguistically, it's incomprehensible almost.
Mm.
So yeah, I don't know what else to say. I wish I had something more to say, but I don't.
I do have a plan for this play, so I will say there is a way through. I've formulated a cunning plan. Lois.
Somehow I can't see us doing a
Well-
second look.
No, I think this goes straight to the third look pile rather than the second. Lois.
I think this Percy was a member of the very distinguished Percy family, wasn't he? I don't know exactly where he is on that tree, but if he's an aristocrat, that probably explains some of what he's doing here. I mean, something that really struck me years later, the Duchess of Newcastle wrote that poets didn't actually join their scenes together. Some hack in the company did that, and that was clearly the principle in which her husband, who eventually became the Duke of Newcastle, wrote his plays. And she certainly wrote in that assumption. I mean, just short snippets that didn't really fit together in any way. I don't know whether the aristocrats all thought that was the way you wrote a play, just if you think of an interesting scene, write it, and eventually you've got a pile of these, and then you hand them to some clown in the company who figures out how to turn it into a play. But that may be what was happening with when people like this, amateurs were dabbling in playwriting. It seems to me these had a couple of other obvious influences, one of which we won't mention, and another which seems to me to be Love's Metamorphosis. I mean, that whole thing of the 3 men and 3 women. I mean, even the ending with the women still refusing, when I think in Love's Metamorphosis, it's Cupid and Ceres who keep saying, come on, get married, and finally force them into it. I think there is really an influence there, and possibly even in that weird Christophel plot, which I can't fully follow, but it's a bit like the Sir Topaz plot, I think, in Endymion. I mean, a lot of younger people making fun of somebody in a Sir Topaz is a sort of Milles Gloriosus, but the other classic type to make fun of is the schoolmaster. So there may be something there in Percy's rather muddled head.
Yeah. Yes, he was third son of Henry Percy, 8th Earl of Northumberland. So third son. So he's not even the spare. Educated at Gloucester Hall, Oxford. His life. This is according to E.K. Chambers, so this is not exactly up-to-date scholarship. His life is obscure. That in 1638 he was living in Oxford and drinking nothing but ale. And here he died in 1648. So 10 years of ale drinking, at least, as a minimum marker. So he was born in 1575. So he lived a decent whack for the time. That's not bad at all. Yeah, it's a conundrum. Aliki, can you solve today's countdown conundrum?
I can't solve it. There were moments where we got glimpses of jokes that really worked. And I suspect that if we had all of the references and we had all the Latin and we took it all with the right attitude, because there is that sense I was saying last time, there's a sense in which they're kind of they seem to be set pieces of different forms. And maybe if we approach them all in that way, this bit is slapstick, this bit is classic clown, this bit is a comical duet, something like that. I don't know. That's all I got.
Okay, so this is where I'm normally I generally approach these plays as a director. Or a producer, or as an actor. Whereas this one, I'm approaching this very much as a writer. I'm going, right, okay, this script needs intervention. It's not just dramaturgy to bit and massage the plot or elide some characters. This needs a top-down reworking, and I see this as good material as a starting point for a much better play, and another title, because it clearly should be called The Squirrel Chase, and And so I'm not that fussed about the 3 tit-for-tat back and forth material because it doesn't end in a very satisfactory manner, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'd just on it, but I'd almost certainly change how it concludes. I think it just concludes with a massive poo. And that's all the dialogue you need, and they just sod off. It works quite nicely. There's lots of good gags in there to be played with, but I just want to accentuate the squirrel. Eric, a regular who's not in the room except in the chat, did suggest that maybe Salomon is dressed as a giant squirrel. And this is leading me down all sorts of interesting paths to explicate what's going on there. And even the sort of the back and forth bit with our eventual king and queen at the end of the play could be tweaked. But yeah, just a top-down rewrite, taking the bits I like, not worrying about necessarily retaining any of the structure to the actual dialogue, and just write a play after Percy. Because I think the problem with Percy is just his writing of dialogue, and we just need to change it. And adaptation and using things as starting points. We don't have to, say we'll do the play as the author intended. Oh, sod that. This is material, and there's some good material in this to nick. And I'm sorry, even if I don't write a play that's anything like this, I really want to do a play about someone hunting squirrels, because it's just absolutely wonderful as an idea. Who every time he comes on, someone just has to shout squirrel, and he assumes the position, ready to take out the squirrel. Aliki.
So I have put in the chat, and I submit then for your interest in this rewrite, the American folk song Billy Barlow, which is about hunting for a rat. But surely we can do something with that.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. It's got to have music. It's got to have songs. This is a family show. I'm sorry, I'm refining some of the edges here, but yeah, absolutely, because I'm sure that would sell, and maybe some unfortunates would be led back to the original play. But we could just put a note. Just don't. It's fine. Because I weirdly I've sort of enjoyed this, if only just simply because I've been throwing up my hands every so often, just going, "What the hell is going on?"
Yeah.
For me at least, it's been delightful to watch you so frustrated, because you're always urging us to try and look at the play in the best possible light, and what could we do with it, and not to just go, "Oh, that's nonsense." So to see you go, "Oh, that's nonsense."
But I have to say, I have taken a positive light in sense of what could be done with this. I haven't said just put it in a drawer and throw it away, which is not our purpose. I'm sure actually you could make an interesting production out of this script if you really, really, really tried. I just think you'd have to work really hard with the actors to make this dialogue land, because it's really, and you may be able to explicate with the action more. But yeah, as a writer, this is making me go, "Hi, this is a project. This is when I have the odd week to set aside. I'll play with squirrels. I will." The other reason I like the whole squirrel aspect is I have written a thing all about people training squirrels. So this is not actually that far from work I've already done. Francis.
But is it worth it?
No. We're not here about worth. No. If someone wants to do that, we're not here to tell people it's not worth the effort. Everything humans do is, how much of it's really worth it? Seriously, it just seemed like a good idea at the time.
Oh, God,
don't ask that question, because otherwise we'd never do any of these plays if we asked that question.
Is it really worth it?
That's
Lois.
not true. Some of them are obviously worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of the opposite of. There's that famous example I think Borges gives of somebody who was rewriting Don Quixote, but using exactly the same words as Cervantes. It seems to me you are doing exactly the opposite. You're not using any of the words of Percy, but you're writing a play that is nevertheless inspired by Percy.
I think I wouldn't ignore the words. I'll just ignore the length of the unity of their sentences.
Yeah, just throw it all up in the air again and see what comes down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of Percy would come through. It's just it won't be structured in the same way. All of the right notes, but not necessarily in the right order.
He might have been inspired, by Marston, who's got one or two things like that in The Malcontent. I mean, there's a bit where these two pages meet, I think, and one says, "I laugh to see you cry," and the other one says, "I cry to see you laugh," and then they go off. That's this is sort of like that, except in much more long-winded in just about every episode.
Yeah, and it's not a long play I'm thinking here. I'm thinking a 75-minute or without an interval. With a lot of songs. There's a lot of cutting going on here in my mind. Okay, so any other thoughts? Moderately constructive. There are a few scenes in this, actually, all seriousness, that actually I would quite like to workshop and do as little individual podcasts, because there are a few little bits in that centre section that were actually quite interesting and quite sweet. Certainly the hunter and the huntress having a sort of little flirty, kissy scene has potential. If not perfect, it's possibly the best, one of the better scenes of this play that might work well in isolation. So you might see bits of this, but whether you could eat a whole one is another matter entirely. He looks around desperately for anyone else to throw anything into their hat. No. Well then, all that remains is to thank all the wonderful readers for the pain and the suffering that I've caused them to go through. All that remains, thank you, all the wonderful readers. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye.
Bye.
Bat, bear away.